Today's message, reconciliation, a Christian imperative. Oh, children, totally forgot. Children, if you want to, go with this lady. She was like, hey, children, anybody that wants to go with April during the sermon time, we'll see in about 30 minutes. Sorry about that. Totally forgot. Oh, here comes more. Nice. All right. Children, we'll see you soon. Wonderful. Thanks. We'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye. It's one of those days. A Christian imperative, reconciliation. So we're going to be talking about that. We'll come to this thing here in just a little bit. Reconciliation is what we're talking about today. So in his book, Bowling Alone, Dr. Robert Putnam, who's a Harvard professor, he cites studies that showed if you were to join a group, like a bowling league or a church, it has the same health benefits as stopping smoking. Okay? Very important. Other studies show that people who have strong social connections have lower blood pressure, have a lower rate of obesity, and socially connected people even get the common cold less often than people who are disconnected. There was a study or three done in the U.S., Scandinavia, and Japan that showed people who are socially disconnected are between 2 and 5 times more likely to die of anything as compared to people who are socially connected. So it's obvious to us, right? It's obvious that being socially connected, being well connected in relationships with people is very important. It's good for our health. And dare I say, it's what it means to be human, to be in good relationship with people. So last week we talked about evil, right? We talked about evil, and I shared how my idea of evil is that which destroys. God is life, God is creativity, and evil is that which destroys and brings to ashes. Evil also affects our relationships. Evil also affects our relationships when it destroys those relationships and turns them into ashes. It happens in our family life. It happens in our work life. It happens with neighbors, people in the same town. It happens in acquaintances we may know. And dare I say, it happens in the church, where people allow evil to destroy their relationships and bring them to ashes. And when we allow that, we are participating with evil. When we allow relationships to be destroyed, we are participating in evil. So in today's reading that Tim gave to us from Philippians 4, Paul was writing to the church in Philippi, and there were 2 women there, Euodia and Syntyche, who did not get along. And it just happened to be recorded in the Bible for thousands of years for millions and millions and millions of people to read all about. Be glad you're not Euodia and Syntyche, where our pettiness would be recorded in Scripture for every church to read forever. Right? I feel sorry for Euodia and Syntyche. But anyway, when I read this, I was thinking about these 2 women. Paul is urging them to get along, urging them to get over themselves, urging them because Jesus is alive, the kingdom is coming, the gospel needs to go out, get over yourself. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we need to hear that ourselves today, don't we? Maybe we need to hear that the pettiness in our own lives sometimes needs to be put aside. So church, hear this truth. If we reconcile with one another, particularly in the church, if we reconcile with one another, we are participating in the life of God. If we refuse to reconcile with people, we are refusing God, and God will refuse us. Sometimes that's hard to hear, but we need to hear that. So today, as we speak together, as I go through the next couple of minutes with you about reconciliation, guys, there's 3 instances that we need to think about. The first one being if I have something against someone else. I need to think about reconciliation if I hold something against someone else. Number 2, I need to think about reconciliation if I know someone else has something against me. If someone has something against me, I need to think about reconciliation. And point number 3, citing Jürgen Moltmann's seminal work, Crucified God, social reconciliation. So those 3 pieces are where we're going to go today. So first, let's talk about if I have something against someone else. We could go around this room today and you could share with all of us how you've been harmed by someone, right? All of us have those stories. All of us, you may be sitting here right now with a wound in your heart and in your life because someone hurt you or someone very close to you was harmed or something was done in your past. We all have those things that we need to think about. We need to think about that which we carry with us, you see. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6:14 and 15 said, "For if you forgive your brothers and sisters their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." Hey, thanks, Jesus. "But if you do not forgive others, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." Simple and straightforward. Simple and straightforward. So that grudge that I've been holding on to, that harm that you've been holding on to, that offense, that damage, is it standing in the way of God and me? Is it standing in between you and God? That broken heart, is it standing in the way of knowing God? Yes, they hurt us. Yes, they're guilty. Yes, yes, yes. Reconcile. But we don't like to do that sometimes, do we? We like to be like Gollum, Lord of the Rings, and stroke it. My precious. Holding on to that grudge and that bitterness becomes a part of who we are. Angry, hateful people. You can see it on people's faces when they're angry and bitter and hard. Right? One of the great joys in being a pastor and being a part of a church is seeing people's physical change when they meet Christ. And I kid you not. I could give you several examples just right off the top of my head. Someone who comes into a church not having known Jesus, not knowing that grace and forgiveness, and they look hard and bitter and angry, and after they meet Christ and cry out to Him, their aspect changes and they become soft. I kid you not. It's like those before and after drugs pictures, It's a difference a world away. So church, who do you need to forgive today? Is there any unforgiveness in this church that we need to look at? Between you and me, you and someone else, you and your neighbor, you and your brother, you and your sister, right? Any of those hanging out in your heart? Does forgiveness mean they're not guilty? No, it doesn't mean they're not guilty. Of course they're guilty. Because I say so. And I'm always right. Just ask me. No. When I say I forgive somebody, it means I give up the right for punishment and the right for being paid back. Like, oh, they just owe me. No. When I say I forgive, and it's a process, by the way, you all know that. But you got to take a step sometime, and I think today's as good a day as any. We need to think about forgiving people in our heart, and when we can restore that other person to humanity, to the status of human being in our own eyes. Because when I'm holding a grudge and a bitterness against somebody, I'm reducing them to that thing, that offense. And I tell you that truism, church, you're more than the worst thing you've ever done. Do you believe that? You're more than the worst thing you've ever done. So is that other person. They're more than that harm they have done to us. And so we need to think about forgiving those people. In Romans chapter 12, verses 17 through 20, Paul wrote this to the church in Rome. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends upon you, live peaceably with all people. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. No. If your enemy is hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. This isn't easy stuff, guys. Whoever thought that being a Christian is all about, I don't know, marshmallow clouds and unicorns? They never read this here Bible. Right? This isn't easy stuff. This is hardcore things about where I hear God's challenge to forgiveness, and in spite of me, I step out in forgiveness to someone else, even though they are guilty of sin. I forgive them and do not repay evil for evil. Inasmuch as it depends upon you, live peaceably with all people. Church, do everything that you can to be at peace with all people. Do everything that you can to forgive people. Do everything that you can to be reconciled to one another. And if you have something against somebody within a church, it's even more. We are, dare I say, demanded by God, fix it or get out of the way. Yeah, I just said that. I mean, right? Because if we're holding on to bitterness and anger, we are choosing to hold on to bitterness and anger. We are choosing to hold on to those things, and we need to wake up to the reality that that's destroying us, destroying our church, and we just need to fix it, right? Humility. Work on it. Forgive people. Say, maybe a first step for you today would be to say, I forgive. I forgive you. And tomorrow morning, wake up and say it again about 6 more times. And then the day after that, say it again, I forgive you. And then again, and work on it and pray for those people and give them something to eat. Give them something to drink. Pray for those who you would consider your enemy and reach out to them. Forgive those you have something against. Point number 1. Second piece is if someone has something against us. Right? As if I know my brother or sister has something against me. Let's read this often, let's say, ignored piece of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 5, 21 through 24 says this. You've heard it said that in ancient times you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. Uh-oh. That's good enough, Jesus. You can stop there. No, he says, and if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. You'll notice that Jesus is saying the hard work of if I know someone has something against me, before I come to church, I am to fix that problem. Oh, don't tell me that, Jesus. This is the thing we often don't like to hear. Just as the anger and bitterness and unforgiveness stands in the way of me and God when I have it against someone else, it can stand in the way of God and I when someone else is mad at me. And this will often require great big courage in all of us. Great big courage coming from here, right? Some kind of courage that we've got to get it together and go to that person humbly and oftentimes confessing. I'm sorry. Whew, here again, right? Strong like bull. That's Christian life for you. This isn't cheap, easy, breezy spirituality, rub some rocks together. This is take yourself in hand and go find somebody that's mad at you and fix it. That's the biggest, man. You know, April and I, we never fight, but when we do, it's always her fault. And don't tell her I said that. And you know, sometimes, you know how this goes. You're like washing the dishes and you're all mad. You're like, yeah, I'm right. And there comes that point where I've got to say in myself, either I get over myself and go to her and say, you know what, April, I'm sorry. Even though I'm right, forgive me. I'm sorry. Because if I want to hold on to that grudge, that anger, that rightness, I'm putting a nail in the coffin of my relationship with her. And you know what? I don't want to do that. So church, if you know that someone is angry with you, if you know someone has a problem with you, go to them. Jesus says before you come to church, you know, you're all here, it's Sunday morning. Anybody know of anybody that's mad at you? Oh, you guys actually raise your hand. You're so courageous. Dude. Give me knuckle bump on that one, sister. Nice. Girl power. Man. All right. Jesus said, you got to be like a kid if you want to know me, didn't he? Kids are honest. Strong like bull. Do you know somebody's mad at you? Fix it. Do you know somebody in the church that's upset with you? Go to them. Did you vote for a different color carpet than they did 63 years ago? And they're still mad at you? Go apologize to them and take them carpet of the right color. Okay? That's point number 2. Point number 1, if you're mad at somebody, there's that song from the 80s. Get over it, right? It sounds much better when they sing it. Then there's that point number 2. If you have someone that's mad at you, go humbly to them. And now point number 3, social reconciliation. Now here, I know you're smart people, and so we're going into some smart people land. Jürgen Moltmann, German theologian over in the Tübingen School, wrote this really cool book, and I'm going to read to you parts of it right now. Social reconciliation. Social reconciliation. Now I know we're really good at this, but it needs to be said some more. Social reconciliation. Upon the cross, the cruel device of torture, God himself died, right? You all get that. You all get that. But upon the cross, Jesus, God himself enters into solidarity with those who are suffering, those who are harmed, those who are poor, those who are weak, those who are being destroyed. Upon the cross, Jesus, God himself, enters into that suffering and takes it into himself so that he might identify with those who are suffering. When Jesus hung on the cross and died, God himself identified with everyone in the world who was suffering and dying, who was being oppressed. He offers them the rights that they had been taken that had been taken from them. He offers them the protection and the covering of His own life. On the cross, God seeks those who suffer and enters into life in suffering with them. Those things which they had been deprived, Christ gives to them. And so here's two pieces that are really important. Upon the cross, God Himself, in Jesus Messiah, offers solidarity and togetherness with those who are being harmed and oppressed and violently treated. But He also offers atonement. He also offers atonement to those who are doing the violence and the hatred, so that they might know reconciliation and peace and forgiveness and true humanity. On the cross, God offers hope to the oppressed, forgiveness to the oppressor, so that both might be redeemed. On the cross, Jesus cries out for His oppressors, God, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. And then, church, as it falls to us as His people, Jesus people, Christ people, resurrection people, we are those who not only enter into solidarity with those who suffer, we are those who work and strive against evil. Hard Christian stuff. Because only when we work with them and strive against evil and for the redemption of the oppressor, only then will we find Jesus at our side. We will not find Jesus at our side if we just say, oh, that's too bad. I'm glad that's not happening to me. We will find Jesus at our side if we enter into their suffering and strive against the evil that has been done to them. So let's go back to the front. Who has harmed you today? I bet you can picture them right now. I would like you to begin to forgive them. Try. It doesn't mean they're not guilty. It means you are relinquishing your hold on that bitterness, on wanting revenge, on wanting reparations. And if there's any harm done amongst relationships in this church, as we break bread together at communion in just a few minutes, maybe it would be a good time to go to them and hug them in the communion line and maybe go through with them. Right? If you know of anyone that has something against you, go to them today. Give them a call. Give them a letter. Send them an email. Facebook them, right? You don't, that's easy. Hey, sorry I hurt you. But do something today. Do something today. And church, realize also that as a church, we know life is hard. We could all attest to that. Life is hard. The last thing we need is a church family that's not really family, that's easy to bolt at the first sign of trouble. We need to know, as you look around this room, I want you to commit to this people, to this church, to us as family. Commit that when things go hard, we just don't bolt out the door and hold an angry grudge and I'll never see you again. Do not do that. Commit to one another. Commit to us. Commit to God and this place in forgiveness. And today, let us be mindful of those who are in the struggle, who are in violence, who are in pain. And let us work, let us enter into their situation and work, strive that that evil might be done away with in the name of the risen Christ. So today, church, I invite you to say, I forgive you. I forgive you. Amen. I hope you were able to say that and begin the process of healing and forgiveness today. And now we're going to come to our time of communion. And it always